Court of Justice of the Economic Community of West African State, or Ecowas Community Court of Justice, on Wednesday indicted the Nigerian government over human rights abuses in its response to the #EndSARS protest on October 20, 2020. The sub-regional court pointed to what it called the Nigerian government's disproportionate use of force against the peaceful protesters at the Lekki toll gate in Lagos on the date in question. In the ruling delivered by Judge Rapporteur Justice Koroma Sengu, the court also slammed a 10 million naira compensation to each victim named in the suit at the expense of the government. Global human rights watchdog Amnesty International also submitted an amicus brief, which was declared admissible by the court. Evans Ufeli is a lawyer, and he joins us now to take a look at that ruling and how to ensure that government upholds citizens' rights to protest and other liberties. Many thanks for being here on Newsday.
Thank you.
So let's start, with your thoughts on this judgment given by the Ecowas Court.
Yes, this is one very important judgment that will go down to the history of human rights violation in Nigeria and its ancillary matters. It is an event that shook the nation at the time, 2020, October 20th, specifically. That was when the event happened. I am not just guessing. I was a participant at the protest. And what happened that day was actually what the ECOWAS court had just unveiled to the larger society. Now we have two judicial bodies that have indicted the federal government. First was the panel of inquiry set up by the Lagos State government that looked into the case immediately after the event took place and indicted the federal government and the Lagos State government. And now the ECOWAS court have done the same. This on clear terms that if you look at the African Charter on Women and People's Rights, which we are signatory to, it's clear that we have right to life. The citizens have right to life in this sub-region. We have right to freedom of expression, assemblage, not to be subjected into any dehumanizing condition, ranging from Article 4, 6, 5, 9, and 10 of the African Charter of Women and People's Rights. These are the legislation or the section of the law that have been violated by the federal government. It stated clearly that they were violation of human rights, even though the ECOWAS court did not admit, for the want of clear evidence, that the right to life was violated, but that the right to assemblage, the right for expression, peaceful assemblage, not to be subjected to security of human person and all that were violated, because soldiers actually came to the site and opened fire at citizens who were not armed, citizens who were singing, chanting songs with the national flag and all that. And it became a very serious issue. And to date, even in court, the federal government consistently had said they followed the rules of engagement, that one of the applicants went live on Instagram to incite the public. There was nothing like that. It was, we had done 5 days already of the protest before they came to shoot. And during the shooting, she went live, one of the applicants. And that was not to incite anybody because she was recording the action. Even one of the reporters of one of the popular TV stations picked live ammunition on the floor that the army had used on harmless citizens. And it's a clear case of a human rights violation. Perhaps the lawyers who took that case to the ECOWAS court didn't prove much of, didn't bring more evidence or much evidence as to people who died. That was why the ECOWAS court has sidestepped that every other human right under the sun was violated on that day. And this judgment has gone further to justify that no one was lying about this. I mean, two judicial authority, one a quasi-judicial authority, one a court, have now said, okay, there was a violation of human rights, and this is very clear.
And to this day, we know that the amount of injured or killed has been disputed, if not covered up. It has been a subject of much controversy. But We also know that the ruling has allowed for, this Ecowas ruling has allowed for about 2 million or 10 million to be paid out to
Yes.
each individual. And I think there were
2 million each.
Yes, there were 3 individuals who were in the suit.
Yes.
But how much teeth does the Ecowas court have? We know that the federal government has been sanctioned, but how far is their reach? What could they realistically do in order to compensate these victims and to abide by this ruling here in Nigeria?
Yeah, it is expected that the federal government should obey court order generally.
Right, but
okay. Yeah, but you know that international organizations have no enforcement arm. There is no ECOWAS police going about, and all that. But the federal government is on the spot right now. The head of the federal government is the current chairman of ECOWAS. Okay? And he just got re-elected a few days ago. And before now, he had made frantic effort against countries that violate the rights of their citizens as it relates to military takeover of power. You see that in Niger, Burkina Faso, and the rest of that have formed a Sahel now, a kind of a parallel authority now against ECOWAS and all that. So this is the time to obey, because you cannot oversee ECOWAS and not obey the laws emanating from the court thereof. That will amount to hypocrisy. That will amount to the leader destroying whatever it is building up to lead, or whoever is building up to lead. I mean, this bad governance have become a subject matter, because the truth is that SARS was actually banned during the protests. But the people only discovered that SARS was not the only issue in the country then. So they continued the protests and added other issue, calling the federal government to take care of it. All of a sudden, so it's up to the Nigerian government to obey the judgment of that court. It is very important. And if you look at it, the justices that superintended over that case are not actually, they are not Nigerians. By their names, you will know. So this is a judgment that should be obeyed. The federal government must compensate. I feel that even the 2 million is small. They should do what they ought to do, because when the Lagos State government came up with the panel of inquiries, they gave compensation to a lot of people and other states, even the one in Abuja and all that. Because the truth is that during the proceedings at the panel of inquiries then, the army stopped coming at a point, because the governor of Lagos State was on CNN and had been asked a question, who invited the army, and he said he never invited the army. When the army saw that, they came to the panel and said that the Lagos State governor invited them, and they were embarrassed, okay? So whichever way it is, at this point, it's not about the fact of the case now, because there's not a judgment. What do we do with the judgment? The government should obey the judgment of the court, because it's important. The court is dominus litis, and as such, every pronouncement therefrom is expected to be obeyed by law.
Now, like you said earlier, the federal government, through its team of lawyers, have consistently, denied all the allegations. They said the protesters were unlawfully assembled at the Lekki toll gates and that the army, followed the rules of engagement. So how then do we uphold the people's right to protest? How do we prevent such from occurring again, given the fact that the federal government has not even admitted the fact that they did anything wrong on that day?
Well, they must come to terms with the truth. The truth is that it's a constitutional right of the citizens to so assemble, to so express themselves, as long as it's not violent. Okay, and we saw what happened during the EndSARS. I mean, I was there with other people and all that, and it was clear the EndSARS was started by youth, middle-class youth. The list of them there that started this protest had a first degree. The way the protest was organized, we won't tell you that it was never intended for violence, okay? They were comported. In fact, they cleaned the place. There were medics. There were a lot of things to make people comfortable and all that. That couldn't have been a threat to any serious government. It shouldn't have been a threat. But, the federal government took it personal and then did what they did anti-date, even when the court is saying you violated the rights of people. the federal government have not admitted. But that is not important for now. What is important is that the judgment sum must be paid. And henceforth, the federal government, other than deploying soldiers and police to come to disrupt protests, what the federal government ought to do is to go get bags of rice, biscuits, drinks, and all that, and assemble that. So that anytime protesters are protesting, they feed the protesters. That's what they're supposed to do. To ensure that the protesters, they are supposed to. What the law says is that the police, whoever you bring, the security agencies, must ensure that they guard them so that whatever it is they are doing will not break down, will not lead to a breakdown of law and order. That's what they are supposed to do by law. They are supposed to protect the protesters and not to come shoot at them.
And it's interesting that you brought that up because I was there for 3 of the 5 days of the protests as well, and it seemed more like a philanthropic event.
Yes.
There were free food drives. Everyone that I know that owns a food operating company, they were giving their food out for free.
Yeah.
It almost seemed like the individuals that were living around the community who were destitute were coming there daily to get food, and we were even giving some food to the officers as well, and telling them we were there on their behalf. But that's on a side. You saw the protest that happened in Kenya recently.
Very well.
The way their politics mirror ours, it's a little scary. It seems like they might be facing their own panel of inquiry somewhere down the line for the deaths that they have incurred. What kind of lessons can we learn from either protest? What lessons are even out there to learn going forward? It seems like Nigerians are more apprehensive to protest ever since NSARS. I know that the labor and NLC, et cetera, they're the harder folks, and they go on with their protests. But it seems like those same middle-class youth you were talking about have completely washed their hands of politics and have gone back to Twitter or wherever they are and doing it from afar. What is the way forward in terms of getting peace and justice for everyone all ways around?
The way forward is for the federal government to be responsible enough to take care of the citizens. Section 14, subsection 2 of the 1999 Constitution says, "It is hereby accordingly declared that sovereignty belongs to the people, through which government derive her legitimacy, and that the security and welfare of the people shall be the primary purpose of government." The primary purpose of government is security and welfare. Can you really say that we have proper security and welfare in the country? So if you don't have that, you are going to be having issues with the citizens, okay, as we speak. You're going to have issues with them. So the best way the federal government could have handled this was to make life bearable, okay, come in between the line, okay, stand in as a responsible government and do the right thing. That is the only way you can keep. You see, because the truth is that the people who started the NSAS protests did it not the way the Kenyans were doing there. The Kenyans actually moved. They were in procession and they took over parliament, took the maize.
It's a little more
and
aggressive.
they were advancing into territories. Okay? That for me seems to be a more fierce, protest than what we had was stationary in one place doing our thing and on Twitter and all that. Okay. Now, if the government is not able to look at the citizens eyeball to eyeball and say that which belongs to you by right, we must make sure we guarantee it, because that's what the law says. If the government cannot come to that spot, and then the people watch them in opulence and extravagance. We saw how the National Assembly, how they took cars for themselves. We've seen how we're going to purchase 2 aircraft not too long from now. And we've seen how there's poverty in the land and all that. You have that double standard of a lifestyle. We've seen that the politicians have their own rules in terms of remuneration, and the citizens have theirs. So all these disparities is what creates problems. So why can't the federal government breach it and let the commonwealth of the country be for all?
Very valid questions. Evans Ufeli, lawyer, thank you so much for joining us on Newsday.